the end of the day, no one is coming to rescue you. It's about you being your own rescue, and it's about you beginning with you.
In this episode of Conversations Beyond the Brand, Tashana Thompson sits down with Joann Dean, a 10-time author, coach, speaker, and self-care strategist who holds space for women who prioritize everyone else, encouraging them to care for themselves.
What are the most common patterns you see appear in women who are successful but running on empty?
They're trying to control the outcome, they're chasing success, they're chasing the applause, and they really don't know who they are. Because when you really understand who you are, you don't have to live in hustle mode. You don't have to pour until you're depleted to feel like you're walking in purpose. Because that's not purpose, not divine purpose anyway. That's you creating something and attaching God's name to it.
Woo! You don't have to read us for fifths today, but yet you choose violence. Right? Yet you have chosen violence on today.
Understanding who you are is the foundation of your success. So a part of knowing where I came from set the tone for me being free to step into all of who I am.
A lot of people aren't willing to know what the root of their discomfort and dis-ease is. What do you say to that? Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Conversations Beyond the Brand. I'm your host, Tashana Thompson, and I am absolutely overjoyed today to have one of my favorite people, Joann Dean, with me today. Joann is a coach, an author, a book coach, a spiritual guide. Yes, I say spiritual guide because she's been that for me, and the founder of Self-Care for Success. Joann, welcome to the podcast today. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. I am honored to be here.
I want you to tell the people in your own words about you and who you are.
Okay. Well, I am a reflection of God's perfection. I'm a social worker. I'm a 10-time self-published author. And I'm a certified life and book coach. And what I love most is that I get to hold space for the women that hold space for everybody else. And in doing so, I get to experience them prioritizing self-care, healing, and honoring their stories.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And you do it all so well and with such grace. I've had the honor of being coached by you. And I can honestly say it has shifted the way I approach life. Like, not just, I'm a person that typically gets professional coaches and how do we make more money? How do we do all the things? And coming to work with you a few years ago was really about going deep and taking care of myself. And it was transformative. And I want to share with you here and publicly what that work has meant to me, what you brought out of me, and what you're bringing out of so many others. I want people to know your name, to follow your journey, to become a part of your community, because you're doing such awesome space work in this world and creating space that people really need. So I have to give honor where honor is due.
Thank you.
So let's start with your story. What led you to social work, first of all? Let's start there.
The house I grew up in.
Okay.
Our house was the hub. And for so long, I asked myself that same question because I didn't see any social workers in my community. But as I reflected on my journey, my grandmother symbolized social work for me because our house was the hub. It was the place where everybody came to get something to eat, to get answers to questions, to borrow money. And then the thing that really stood out for me was that I remember we had what they called a soup kitchen back then at our church, and my grandmother was the lead person for that. And so I remember watching people come in and out of the church and watching her navigate that
Mm,
whole system of feeding people and nurturing people in the community.
yes. Oh, and that's what you're doing. Like, that's what you've done your whole career, right?
Hmm.
So tell me what inspired you to start Self Care for Success.
Actually, when I relocated to Atlanta, I was really missing my support system back home because back home I was really active in ministry. And for whatever reason, everybody would always end up at my house, and they said it was because I cooked.
Mhm.
So I guess, I was reflecting what I grew up in an environment where food and fellowship was a guiding factor for meeting the needs of the people that we care about so much. And after I did not have that here, I was like, you know what? The social worker in me said that if you don't have what you need, you create it.
Absolutely.
And I ended up meeting a couple of women. It was three women that I connected with on my journey here. And I invited them over to my house and I said, this is the vision I have. I said, I want us to meet once a month. And it's a place where we can just feel safe enough to share how we feel and what we're going through because we were all in leadership roles. And when you're in a leadership role, we're guarded because we don't want people to see us or appear to be vulnerable because we feel like it diminishes who we are.
Mhm.
And so this was a space where we could be safe to be who we are and to process our day to day. But who knew that me needing this and creating it to fulfill a need that I had, it would turn into something greater. And actually, I was dating my husband at the time, and he said, you
Wow.
always seem so happy when you come back from these meetings because
Mhm.
it went from us meeting at my house to us taking turns meeting at each other's house to then meeting at places in the community.
Oh,
And so it
wow.
turned into this really great experience every time we got together, and we would take different turns hosting.
I love
He
that.
said, why don't you turn it into a business? And I said, what would that look like? And so as I began to ponder and reflect that's how, and actually back then it was called Sister Circle.
Yep.
So that's how Sister Circle was birthed. And I started hosting retreats in the community where I would feed people, I would give them a message of inspiration, and then we would talk about what concerned them and come up with solutions. And actually, that's how my first book was birthed. Because at the end
Mhm.
of each sister circle, I would do a survey. And based on the questions that they would ask, because I wanted to give them an answer, that turned into the book.
Oh, wow. Tell me more about the book.
So the book was a reflection of my journey because most of the questions were around forgiveness and faith and how do you move forward. And so the book, which is my very first book, and I've since changed the cover, the book is entitled It Begins With You because at the end of the day, no one is coming to rescue you. It's about you being your own rescue, and it's about you beginning with you. Before you can forgive anybody else and show up for anybody else, you have to show up for yourself. And
Mm.
that's what I did. And so I'm grateful that God allowed me to take my message and turn it into something that could serve other people. And
Oh,
then self care for success that came in 2022 when a whole nother journey of self healing began for me.
tell me about this whole other journey of self-healing.
So, self care for me, it's about self discovery, it's about understanding who you are. And as you stated earlier, you had the opportunity to be coached by me along with so many other women. And while I was coaching other women, I realized a common denominator was that it was connected to something they didn't receive from their father. And
Mm.
while I thought I had done enough work to heal the parts of me that had been impacted by the absence of my father, I was triggered.
Mm.
And so I went back to God and asked him to show me the parts of me that still needed healing. And I went on a year-long journey of healing, so much so that God brought me back to the very place where it all began, which was on the front porch of my grandmother's house, which is where I first met my father.
Mm.
And in going back there, in that very same place, my uncle spoke words to me that healed me. And it was those masculine words that I needed to heal a part of me.
Oh my goodness. Ugh. You've said so much, and I'm just trying to pick the thing because I'm going to pick all the things out of this. I'll start here. Thank you so much for sharing that, first of all, because I believe it's going to be a blessing to so many people, so many women. You first said that going through this path of self discovery and realizing with the women that you coach that there was a void, I'll call it, with something within them that was linked back to the relationships with their fathers. Can you tell me more about what that void, as a what that void looked like? As someone who did not have my father in the home, I've walked this and continue to. But what have you noticed in terms of what that void looks like and how it shows up for women?
Well, for me, it showed up as I felt like I wasn't good enough. It always felt like something was missing. And it also felt like um, there was a disconnect. And what I mean by disconnect is that I always was trying to figure out what parts of me reflected who he was.
Mm.
Because the other thing was, I remember the day my father showed at my grandmother's house, I was in high school and I refused to have a conversation with him because I felt like, where have you been?
Mhm.
Out of the people that I hung with, I was the person that was without a father. And so I always questioned, why was I the one that didn't have my father present? And every time I would go to my grandmother, she would say, don't worry about it. I'm your mom and your dad. I'll make sure that you always have what you need. And she did. But for me, there was a void that no one can fill. Even though I grew up never wanting something and not receiving it, no one could fill that void but the healing power of God. And
Mhm.
those masculine words that my uncle spoke to me that day that I didn't even know I needed. And so it's important to recognize how we're showing up in the world, because even though I was successful professionally, personally, there was always this void because of the absence of my father. But the mindset shift for me was that even though he wasn't there, I lacked nothing. I still had what I needed. And so my uncle was able to connect those dots, because what I realized is that God will send somebody to hold space
Mhm.
for the absence in our lives.
Isn't that the truth?
hmm So my uncle was able to speak life to me from a masculine place that I felt that I needed in order to fully step into who God had called me to be. And so there was also this book. I remember when I was dating my husband and things were really getting serious. And I said, I really want to move forward with you, but something is holding me back. And I understand that it's connected to my father. That's why I thought I had finished my work. And
Mhm.
so at the time, he paused and he did his research based on who he is. And he came
Mhm.
across this book entitled Whatever Happened to Daddy's Little Girls. And he read the book. And then
Mhm.
he bought me a copy of the book. And he said, as a counselor, I now understand why so many women struggle with feeling unworthy. Because
Wow.
there is so much power in the presence of masculine energy having a father. That's why God created man and woman. It's designed that way for a reason. Because there's some things that you get from feminine energy, and there's some things that you get from masculine energy.
Absolutely. Oh, I just want to sit there because I can think about my own journey and I can think about so many of the women that I've gotten the chance to work with and I've loved. There, even women in my own family that were raised by single mothers, and this feeling of never going without having wonderful mothers, wonderful grandmothers, wonderful caretakers, but always feeling like this um, void. I'll say it again. Of not feeling like you're enough or not feeling like you're worthy. And to hear you again after several years make this correlation between not having that masculine energy and the masculine affirmation in our lives to what that does to us as women,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And um if you're comfortable at a very high level sharing some of what your uncle said to you to affirm you, um
Mm-hmm.
I know that's deeply personal, but very, very high sky view level, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm. One of the things he said to me is, "You're okay,
Mm,
and you have what you need, and your legacy will be the lives that you have impacted."
mm,
And he said, "I'm proud of you, and I'm not surprised who you turned out to be." So it was the affirming who I was. I never had a man to affirm who I was. And for me, that was enough.
mm.
And not taken away from the women that had poured into my life. They
Absolutely.
just could not affirm me the
Mm,
way a father could or my uncle did.
Before we jump back in, have you ever felt like running your business means wearing so many hats? Like you're juggling everything at once? That's why we're proud to have Beyond Business Solutions as the sponsor of this episode. They help entrepreneurs like you stay organized, save time, and focus on what really matters, growing your business. If you're looking for your very own branding and marketing team that truly cares about helping you succeed, visit beyondsolutions.biz. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
I just want to sit for us just a second and honor the space because there's somebody watching, somebody listening that needs to, even if you have to say it to yourself, that needs to sit with that. You're okay, and we're proud of you. Mm,
Mhm.
I feel that so deeply, and I'm grateful that those are words that I've gotten to hear from my father over the years, and but so many don't.
Mhm.
So many fathers have gone on without ever saying those words to their daughters, their children at all, right? Um, so, ooh, I feel
Yeah.
that.
Because even though my father showed up that day, and here is what was interesting. Though I had never met him, my spirit knew him.
Of course.
My spirit knew him. So I have never had a conversation with my father. And I remember when I was in graduate school, I had a professor that we became friends. And I remember talking to her about um, not having that relationship with my father. and we talked about forgiveness
Mhm.
because, my faith is a big part of who I am. And
Absolutely.
so I forgave him, but still, I had never had a conversation. I don't know what his voice sounds like. And so I remember leaving school and going to my grandmother's house, and I said, I'm ready to have a conversation with him. Can you give me his contact information? And she said, Joe, I'm sorry. He passed away. They found him dead in his house this morning. So I was okay because I had forgiven him. But I missed the window to have a conversation with him because my heart, it wasn't ready, Tashana. Well, you know what? That was okay. Because one of the things I do and I encourage women to do is you can still say what you need to say in a letter. And so journaling has always been a part of my journey. And so I wrote what was on my heart and I surrendered that to God.
Mm.
I was okay. But what I realized is that healing is an ongoing thing. Because even though I healed a part of me in college, and then I healed, did some work, and another part was healed. And then when I started coaching, something else came up. And so that part was healed too. But then I think I know what stamped it was the affirming words from my uncle.
Mhm.
And to this day, he still affirms me. I always tell people you need to have somebody who gas you up.
Oh, absolutely.
He's
Absolutely.
that person. Like he sees who I am.
Ugh. And I can see why this forgiveness cornerstone is such a big part of your self-care work, because when we don't forgive and when we can't allow ourselves to get to that place, and as you mentioned, it takes time. I always describe healing as like peeling back the layers of an onion. You heal, you heal, you heal, you heal.
Mhm.
And there's always something else that's showing itself. But that forgiveness component, forgiveness is for us.
Mhm.
It's not for the other person. And, um, being able to write what you wanted to communicate. But how telling that your spirit was ready when his spirit was leaving. Um,
Mhm. Oh,
um,
I hadn't even thought about it like that, Tashana. Mm. Mm.
yeah, we just took a collective breath together. Did you notice how we immediately,
Mhm.
um, I know there's a lot of uncomfortable pause for those of you who are listening and not watching. And that's okay, because this is such a deep conversation. We are not floating at the top of the water. You may need some time, and we need some time to
Mhm.
process in real time as we're having these conversations, because I know it's stirring some things for me. I'm sure it's stirring some things for you, um, Joanne, as we have this conversation. But a part of that baseline self care that you teach is really this forgiveness component, because it's for us.
And it's freedom, Tashana. There has been such a freedom for me to fully show up for myself in a way that I haven't before. Because now I feel free to do that. And it elevated my confidence in who I am.
Say
You know,
more about that. Talk
because I
more about
always say understanding who you are is the foundation of your success.
mm,
So, a part of knowing where I came from set the tone for me being free to step into all of who I am. Because now that link that felt broken or missing, God has sealed that. He put his stamp on it. And now I'm
That
free
is
to be
good.
who he created me to be without second guessing that.
Oh, that's good. That's real good. And I need it in this moment. So you preaching real good to me. I'll take it and I pray that it blesses somebody else. Um, but it has already blessed me. Excuse me, I'm tearing and weepy. Um, I just want to take notes. Like, there's so much that I'm gonna have to go back and immediately pull this transcript because you said that understanding who you are creates this freedom. How does one begin to understand who they are?
Mm-hmm. Glad you asked. So there are 4 questions I begin with. The first is, what does your name mean? The second one is, what's your love language? The third one is, what's your communication style? And the fourth one, what do you value? Because what you value drives your decision making.
Mm, what we value drives our
So
decision.
understanding what your name means, what's your love language, because oftentimes we don't feel love because that person, it's not that they're not expressing it, we're not receiving it because it's not in our love language. What's your communication style?
Mm,
What do you value? Because what you value is what you're going to show up for.
what
And
you
the
value.
actions in your life, the actions in your life will reveal what's important to you.
Keep talking. The
So
actions in
I
your life.
value, I value my relationship with God.
Hmm.
I value my relationship with my family and friends, and I value community. And
Hmm.
everything I do reflects that. And our membership community reflects that. And as a result of those values, what the membership community delivers is clarity, confidence, and community. You got to get clear about who you are,
Mm,
which in turn will elevate your confidence to show up differently. And now you have a community that supports your endeavors.
mm. I love that. I love that. And you know what? I have these affirmation cards from my good friends, Cash, and I was thinking about what I value. And my affirmation card for today, that's sitting right here, demonstrates what I value. I pulled this card randomly, and I'm going to show the people on the screen. It's
Wow.
backward. But this
Relationship.
was my card for today, relationships. And you
Yes, you
said that
do.
over and over again, and what you value and how it determines how you show up. And um, it's so telling because of the community you've built, um, the work that you do through your coaching. It's so telling. Okay, we halfway through, and I have not made it halfway through my questions. But this is so good. We're gonna have to have a part two. When I think about you and your brand, I think of the calm and the confidence and the clarity. Like literally, it's in my notes, right? That you just said this. We're always so aligned. How intentional were you when you were building your brand to make sure that it felt that way to women?
Mhm. Whenever I'm serving somebody, I'm always concerned with the state of your heart.
Mm,
And so everything I do is around your heart space. And so I created this acronym that reflects my core values around heart. And so the first is honor who you are because your truth is your greatest influence. And then embrace reflection. When we go inward, we lead better outward. We teach people how to treat us by how we treat ourselves. But we don't know who we are until we go inward. And then align with purpose. Success flows from our soul, not struggle. If you're struggling, take a minute to reflect on what is this energy attached to. And then rest. Rest restores clarity and your strength. And then trust. Trust the process with grace. Extend patience to yourself because growth takes time. Give yourself permission to go at your own pace. You do not have to compare your journey to anybody else's because your footprint is your footprint. How you walk this earth is uniquely designed for you.
I love that. When you were creating this brand and when you have people experience self care for success, whether it's through your website, your coaching, or speaking, I know you're concerned with the heart. And that was a beautiful acronym that you shared. Thank you so much for that. How do you want them to feel? How do you want women to feel
Seen.
seen?
It was about creating a space where people felt seen, heard, and their stories will be honored. It's a judgment-free zone.
I
Because
love
remember, this is a space for women who constantly pour into other people, who always have to be on. And so I wanted to create a space where you don't have to be on because as women, we give and give and give. But then who pours back into us? And so I took on the assignment of holding the space to do that.
yeah, I love that. What is your advice to women who don't know how not to be on, who haven't yet learned to sit in any level of vulnerability? What do you say to that?
I say that it's time to stop doing and focus on being. And your validation does not come from doing. And
Mm,
you're worthy just for being.
that's good.
And so that goes back to when you're clear about who you are, you don't have to work for it.
Being clear
Because
about.
when you're clear about who you are, you're aligned with who God has created you to be. So you attract, you don't have to chase.
Say it again.
When you are clear about who you are, you're aligned with who God called you to be. Therefore, you attract and you don't have to chase anything because what's for you will always find its way to you.
I'm preaching real good today, Joanne. I call her Auntie. Um, but but Auntie, you preaching real good today. You don't have to chase. What do you say to people who say that, faith without works is dead and I have to be doing, I have to be, using the gifts that God has given me and moving to attract?
Mhm,
What is the balance there,
mhm.
if any?
Still, it still goes back to alignment because I work,
Mm-hmm.
but I work based on what God has called me to. So when I'm in alignment, I'm doing the thing that God called me to, and that thing is fulfilling me, while at the same time, it's impacting the life of somebody else.
Okay.
So,
That's
yes, we have work to do. Yes, we have to believe in who we are and who God created us to be.
mm-hmm.
And the work is understanding who you are.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, that's the work. And it goes back to, it always begins with you, because you can't really work on somebody else until you know yourself. That's why there's unfulfillment. That's why there's a need to chase, because you're not satisfied.
Mm. I
Because
need
when you're
to change.
satisfied, you're okay with stillness. You're okay with your own company.
Woo.
You're uncomfortable because you don't want to sit with yourself because you're afraid of what might show up.
That is the God's honest truth. And I've been there. And on any given day, I could possibly be there again, right? Because
We
it's
all
always
have.
pulling back the layers of the onion. And so many people, and I'll speak to the women that I'm blessed to work with, and being blessed to be raised by an awesome tribe of women. Um, it takes a lot of courage to know yourself. To I tell people all the time, I've been picking at myself for over 20 years, it feels like, right? Just really, again, peeling back the layers of the onion, whether it be through therapy, whether it be through various coaches, whether it be through Bible study, through, studying the Word of God, other self development, professional development mechanisms, and a lot of sitting in quiet, uncomfortable spaces with yourself. I've been blessed to coach some women too, and they come from to me for marketing coaching, and they typically end up getting a whole lot of mindset coaching because it's never about marketing. Is
Mhm.
the issues that we have are always rooted in us and our ability to do, as you so wonderfully articulated, um, care for ourselves, sit with ourselves, know ourselves. And so many people, they don't have the courage to do that.
Mm-mm.
It takes courage. People don't want to know.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Sometimes the devil we know, as people say, is easier to face than the devil that we don't, or that we are afraid to face. I'm actually listening to a book. I started it this morning. Don't believe everything you're thinking, or I think that's how it's
Mm.
phrased. Um, and he's talking about that, like in the opening chapters, like a lot of people just aren't willing to know what the root of their discomfort and dis-ease is. What do you say to that?
Um, we've been talking a lot about alignment,
Mm-hmm.
and alignment is a position of agreement.
Mm.
Let me say that again. Alignment is a position of agreement. And so it takes me back to one of my favorite books, which is The Four Agreements. And in there, he talked about domestication, which is when we come here from the first day, the programming begins,
Mm.
whether it's intentional or not, it begins. And so we are taught how to show up based on the environment we grow up in. And he talks about, the agreements being be impeccable with your words, always give your best, don't take things personal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about us understanding, what do I agree with? It kind of goes back to, what do I value? And so, what do you agree with? If you get clear about that, and you may have agreed with something somebody said to you that wasn't even for you.
Exactly. Or about you. Um,
Exactly.
I was just telling one of my coaching clients, you know, we hold stuff that ain't even ours to hold.
Oh, absolutely.
Think
Absolutely.
think about the generational stuff that we have in our backpacks that from 2, 3 generations ago has nothing to do with us. Being a parent of adult children, um, being a caregiver to parent, like there's all types of stuff that we pick up, we put in our backpack that has nothing to do with us. And oftentimes, if we could lay some of that stuff down, we could get to the real work of caring for ourselves, of knowing ourselves. But that is terrifying to so many.
Mhm. And it goes back to the self-awareness. And
Mhm.
even for me, I remember days when I would be great, and then all of a sudden my energy just drops.
Yep.
And so I just say, God, what is this? And he said, what you're carrying is not yours. And so now every time I feel where my energy gets low, I ask God, is this mine? What is this connected to? Because of the work I do, and you do too, when we're coaching and we're holding space for people, it's hard not to serve with compassion and not carry that.
Mhm.
And so that's why you have to ask yourself, is this mine?
Oh, that's good.
And you have to have a process at the end of your service for laying it at the feet of
Mm.
God, for getting rid of it, for giving it back to something that's bigger than you, so that you're not carrying it with you day after day and then it swallows you.
That is so good. I was just telling my mom earlier this week and my husband, like, there's times as a marketer and as a coach that you can do all the right things. And if things don't turn out the way that they need to or your client wants them to, then you feel bad. You feel like you failed. And what you just said really helped me. And I know will help so many other people, especially as we're entering a whole different space in our world and our economy, that some stuff you just got to lay down. It's not yours. Every one of us that is working from a heart centered, God centered place and showing up with our clients with excellence and care and empathy. I pray over my clients. I want every single thing their hand touches to be successful. I pray over my colleagues and my business besties. Like, I'm praying for you. At the same time, I have to learn to say, God, this is yours to bless. You are the giver of every good thing, not Tashana. And I don't have the power to orchestrate. I just have to do what I'm called to do. Our listeners just have to do what they're called to do and leave the rest, as you said, at the feet of God.
Because one of the agreements is always give your best. And every day, your best is going to look different.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as you gave your best, and now let go of trying to control the outcome.
You're so good at that. And, for our listeners, I have been knowing Auntie Joann for, shoot, well over a decade.
Mhm.
And you've always been this way. You've always been this way. And if you've gone from glory to glory, for sure, but there's always been this calm, this quiet confidence to you. Like, it doesn't have to go rah rah. It doesn't have to do anything. It's just steady, steady, steady love. Like, um, and you're so, so good at that. And I know that there are a lot of values that anchor you in this, your faith being, the anchor of it all. What are the other values that really anchor you as a person and obviously translate over into your brand and work?
Be still and know that I am God.
Mm,
I am a reflection of God, which
mm,
means that I possess divine gifts. And it's about trusting. My favorite scripture is trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Acknowledge him in all your ways, and
mhm.
he will direct your path. Trusting, trusting God in his timing, trusting that he has a divine plan for me, trusting that I can cast all of my cares on him.
You work with so many women who are driven and ambitious and exhausted, right? All at the
Mhm.
same time. What
Mhm.
are the most common patterns you see appear in women who are successful but running on empty?
Mhm. They're trying to control the outcome. They're chasing success. They're chasing validation. They're chasing the applause.
Mm,
And they really don't know who they are. Because even though what appears to be success, true success is knowing who you are and where you're rooted.
yes.
That is true success. Because when you really understand who you are, you don't have to live in hustle mode. You don't have to pour until you're depleted to feel like you're walking in purpose. Because that's not purpose, not divine purpose anyway. That's you creating something and attaching God's name to it.
Whew. You don't have to read us for filth today. You don't have to, but yet you choose violence. Right? Yet you have chosen violence on today. Listen, if you need to pause, it's either judge you for filth. Just take a pause. Come back though. Come back. Finish. It's good. It's good. It's loving. It's loving violence. Um, and it's so true. I had a conversation with you a couple weeks ago about how I'm a much different person than the woman you coached. If it was only probably 3 years ago, I think. I don't remember exactly how long ago. I am so different. And I was sharing with you how my meter for success has changed. And I can notice within myself, like, if I look at stuff from a few years ago, there was a self arrogance to me that, I still, eh, God's still working on me. But it isn't that. And I just love the way that God has just taught me over the years. And he teaches all of us, whatever our thing is, that it's not ever about you.
Mhm.
And sometimes we can know that for a time, and then we get a little bit of whatever. I'm using all the quotes with success. And we think, oh, is it because I'm so special? And it's no, every good thing comes from God. Every good thing, good and perfect thing. So our gifts, our purpose, that is all God given. It's not because any one of us is so great. Um, but if we choose to believe that we can do any of this in our own strength, for those of us who are believers, we quickly learn and are humbled. Um, and I am thankful to God that He cares enough about me to pop my hands, that I'm in close enough relationship and proximity that He can say, ah, and I get my tail right back in
Mhm.
order real quick. But some people don't have that. And to your point, some people, and I've been guilty, will chase and call it purpose and put stamp names, God's name on it. And we're not, and that's not of God. I'm done with my monologue.
Yeah, true though.
But that, I mean, but you just said a whole mouthful, and I'm convicted.
Mhm. But the title of my first book is not by accident. It begins with you, which laid the foundation for the next nine, right? So it begins with you means that the conviction always begins with me. The pop on the hand always begins with me. And then I pour it into the community. But God always corrects me first. He gets me together.
Oh, real quick. I feel like I'm in a season right now that he's been the last several weeks been telling me like, girl, I'm rolling my neck for those who are listening. Like, he has really been getting me together again,
Mm-hmm.
again. And so many things I've shed. But we're constantly growing and evolving. And for business women, and I was like this when I came to you, but this isn't helping me make money. Oh, this ain't helping me achieve these goals. Here's the thing, our businesses grow as quickly as we do. And if you don't love yourself, if you are not in alignment, if you are out of purpose, if you don't know yourself, it impacts everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's why this work is so monumental. Like, this is really, I was telling you the other day, God reminded me of when you told me what my name was. And I'm gonna tell this story real quick. I'm gonna let you tell it.
No,
I'll just
you
add,
tell me.
I'll just start with my name is Tashana. This is a classic black 80s baby name. Okay. 80s, everything was color, duh, Shauna, wanna, cut, whatever, wanda, the. So, I kind of grew up thinking my mama wanted a boy. She would have named him Sean or Anthony. And here I go to Shauna. And Joann and I worked together, did an exercise where she did her research. And I don't know where she pulled this from, but she pulled it from somewhere. And I believe everything she says is true. So there we go. Um, and she came to me and it's like, the meaning of your name is the strength of a woman. And I was like, say what? First of all, you're making it up, but because I believe everything you say is true, we'll go with it. But when I tell you that you sharing that, and I'll cry because that's what I do nowadays, you sharing that had me sit up straight. It helped me to show up differently, to show up to my work with more confidence and boldness, because I promise you, I'm a marketer, but so much more. And I am on a daily basis lending women my strength and attaching myself to their own, pulling their strength, right? And it really has anchored me. So thank you again for that.
You're welcome. I got chills when you said it
I
because
can't
there's so
cry. I
much
don't cry.
power. There's so much power in our names. That's why when you're naming your children, I mean, there's some cultures, there's so much time that goes into coming up with a name because they understand the impact. I remember, quick story, I remember my husband and I, we had this community center and we went to this meeting. And of course, we had to introduce ourselves. And at the end of the meeting, this Native American gentleman, he was like making his way toward me. And
Mm-hmm.
he said, "Do you know what your name means?" And I said, "Absolutely." He said, "I named my daughter Joann because of what it meant." Like he wanted to make sure I understood the value of my name.
Oh, wow. Tell me what your name means.
Gracious gift from God.
And that is you in a nutshell. In a nutshell, that is you.
And my
Mm,
mom didn't know that when she named me Joann.
yeah. I don't know if people have as much intention, but I can remember looking up my daughter's name, although her name, Google will tell you, means son of Adam, because her name is Addison, but her middle name is Rain.
Mm-hmm.
And it's rain like God reigns.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that was important to me in naming her.
It's
that she knew
beautiful.
that the reign of God was within her. Her
Hmm.
name was almost Love. Her name was almost Love Reigns.
Hmm.
Um,
Ooh, that would have been cute.
it would have been cute. She may decide to change it someday. But it's so true. It makes us sit up differently. I sit up a little bit differently,
Hmm.
and I know what my name means.
Hmm.
Um, and it's
'Cause
such a
every time somebody calls your name, they're speaking that over your life.
mm,
Life and death is in the power of the tongue.
it's so true. I want to hold a little bit of space, um, just because of where we are, and you're such a great person to speak to this. If you could offer some encouragement to all of the women who have lost their jobs, who are finding it hard to provide for their families, um, who just may be struggling because so much of our identity for many of us is in our profession. And I
Hmm.
think the last report was, over 300,000 Black women alone had been laid off from work. What would you say to those women who are listening?
Hmm. I would say to honor your feelings first and foremost. I would also say don't get lost in your feeling. Remember who you are, that there are gifts inside of you that you can use to create resources. And here is the other thing that God has recently shown me is that we want money because money answers all things. But money is not the only way to get what we need. Money is just currency. And if we just wanted money, when we got the money, we would hold on to it. What we want are the things that money provide for us.
Hmm.
So you can receive provision without having the money.
That's good.
So you use your resources. Come together with other people and combine what you have to create more. Know that you are not alone and don't allow your pride to prevent you from asking.
Hmm.
Because ask and you shall receive, seek and you shall find, and knock and the door will be open. And as the world say, a closed mouth does not get fed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's good. I just wanted to take a moment because I feel like there's so many people that need that encouragement. And I just think that you are always such a blessing to everybody that you encounter and everybody that hears the sound of your voice. Um, and I knew you would have a thing to say. So I could talk to you forever. Like, quite literally, I could. But I want to honor our time together and I want to have a little fun before you go, if that's all right.
Okay.
So I like to play a little game that I call the Beyond the Brand lightning round. So I just want to hear the first thing that comes to your mind as I ask these questions.
Okay.
What's your go-to coffee or tea order?
Chai tea, hot chai latte with almond milk.
Love it. What book or resource has had the greatest impact on your personal growth other than the Bible?
You know, I was going to say the
I know
Bible.
you were going to say the Bible.
I would say the Four Agreements.
Awesome. What's a quote or mantra or scripture that keeps you grounded?
Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. And then Jeremiah, for I know the plans I have for you.
Love it. What's your favorite way to recharge when you need rest?
Read.
I know you've been doing a lot of that in this season. What does success mean to you now?
It means knowing who I am.
Mm. Joanne, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you
Um,
for having me.
you just shared so many jewels and gems and words of wisdom and encouragement for us, um, and showing us and encouraging us to know ourselves first and to love ourselves first. So, thank you for sharing all of that encouragement and some of that violence that is going to move us to action today. It's such a powerful reminder that all of this self work is true self care, not getting our hair and nails done, but knowing ourselves as true self care is what catapults us into whatever our version of success looks like.
Mhm.
So I am going to put in the show notes all the ways that our listeners can find you in your 10 books, in your community, in self care for success. Please, 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 if you're listening or watching us, please, I encourage you to change your own life, do yourself a favor, and connect with my auntie Joann Dean at Self Care for Success. And until next time, stay rooted, stay connected, and stay in relationship. Love you.